ist eine weitere Legende aus Belgien, CJ Bolland. Thanks that you're here in the interview. You're in Technoclub today. How is this atmosphere for you?
It's pretty good. It's pretty good. Actually, it seems to be more like a trance club, I've noticed. This is what I don't know how many dance floors there are here. It's a big place. I think there's 4 or 3 or 4.
4.
Yeah. Well, it's huge. This used to be Sven's place, yeah?
Right.
Cocoon. Yeah,
Right.
I heard about it. I never saw it before, though. It's great.
So how do you like the atmosphere? I mean, you're not playing in the main club, but this is a very nice, comfortable location.
I like this kind of when Tala called me, he said, yeah, we're doing mainly a trance party, but we want a techno room. Do you want to play? I said, sure. And he said, yeah, it's a bit smaller. It's pretty okay to me. It's not small, okay, maybe relative to the bigger room, but it's pretty cool.
I heard some of your set. What did you mainly try to play tonight? Just more of the classics, or?
Well, the original idea of Tala was to play 90s classics.
Okay, yeah.
But I noticed that that wasn't really what was going down the best. They preferred some new stuff. So I mixed it. I mixed the two together. I played a bit of both,
okay.
and I felt there was a better atmosphere when we were playing the more recent stuff. Is that all right?
A lot of traffic here. A lot of traffic. Tala, what dealings have you had with him back in the day, over the years?
Well, we must have played on hundreds of lineups.
Okay, so it was a lot.
Yeah, it was definitely a lot. I mean, back in the early 90s, trance and techno were almost the same thing.
Yeah.
And there was hundreds of parties, and we just played. You know, I can't remember how many times I must have met him before. I didn't see him for a very long time, and then I saw him again about 3 months ago. We played together in Italy.
Okay.
In Rimini, of all places,
okay.
which brought back some memories. And then he mentioned he wanted to do this, and I said, cool.
A lot of legends today, or from back in the day, Oliver Lee, Frankie Jones, Resistance D. When these names come up, what does that mean to you?
It means the good old days.
Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, of course. Well, I'm a fan of all of those people, of course. But we've known each other for a long time too. But it's also cool. I haven't seen him for a long time. I mean, bumping into people. Some I saw maybe 5 or 6 years ago, but some I haven't seen for 25 years.
But you work closely with Frankie Jones?
We do, yeah. We worked a lot together in the 90s. And then we kind of lost track of each other. And then since about a year or two, we started doing collaborations.
Did you ever play in the Technoclub back in the 90s?
The Technoclub?
In Frankfurt, Dorian Gray?
I did, yes.
What memories do you have of that? Because that's a legendary club.
I remember being in a metal cage in the middle.
Okay.
And we did a live show with me and Cisco Ferreira from the Advent and Robert Leiner. And we were 3 next to each other with a whole bunch of old drum machines and acid boxes and synthesizers, and it was really cool.
Wow. One of your musical inspirations is Jean-Michel Jarre.
Yes, of course.
What does he mean to you today? Does it change from when you were starting up, or is he more of a legend now for you, just from what you've experienced with music?
Well, he always was and always will be a legend.
Yeah, right.
Quite simple. It was the first thing I ever saw on TV. This guy with a bunch of synthesizers and vocoders and drum machines and weirdness, and I just thought, wow, this is incredible. I was like really small then.
Right.
And my mom bought me these albums, and I was listening to them, and not only Jean-Michel Jarre, of course, Kraftwerk and all this stuff. And so yeah, it was pretty clear to me very early that that was the way.
So the Oxygen, I always forget the famous one. The 3, is it Oxygen 3?
Well, the single, there's Oxygen 4.
That famous instrumental song.
Oxygen 4. Well, they're pretty much that whole album is famous, but the main single of that album was Oxygen 4.
So that was one of those tracks that really made you go, wow?
Yeah, well, don't bear in mind I was 3 years old. I couldn't believe what I was hearing, especially because I saw him on TV.
Right.
I mean, there was very little on TV those days, so it was amazingly cool that would be broadcast.
Right.
And I just saw these big machines with big knobs and thought, I wouldn't mind some of that.
Frankie Jones was behind Bonsai Records.
He wasn't behind.
But he released on it, and you were with RNS. How important was RNS for the early techno scene?
Well, it was extremely important to me because it got me launched for a start, and we didn't really know much about what we were doing. It was just all, we've got these machines. We want to make some music. We were recording it to 2-track tape, and this guy was interested. He called me and said, "Can I listen to your tapes?" I said, "Sure." And then he opened this door to this studio with all this gear that I'd never seen before and only could dream of. And he said, "You want to work? Stay here." So I did.
Now help me out. You must know everything that happened at RNS. Didn't Jam and Spoon release Stella over RNS at the beginning?
Yes, I don't think it was originally released on there, but they definitely licensed it.
Okay.
So it definitely had a release on there. But pretty much everything did back then. Moby was licensed, Aphex Twin, Prodigy even.
Yeah.
But the guys that were the close core, inner core of RNS was like me, Joey Beltram, Cisco Ferreira, Advent, David Morley, Marco Salon. That was pretty much the internal. Robert Liner, of course. Yeah.
Would you say Horsepower put you on the map?
I don't know. Did it?
That's what I read.
You tell me. I don't know. But the thing was, I did quite a few releases before that, but I didn't really do them under my name.
Yeah.
I had all kinds of pseudonyms because we were so excited and we were just working all the time. And I would have like 2 or 3 12 inches ready every week. So Armand started saying, oh, we should use different names. We can't put it all out at once. It's going to be confusing. So the first year, I was called Sonic Solution. I was called Rave Signal, The Project, Space Opera, Schism.
Now what about Carmarjar's Rave Clan?
Camargue.
Yeah.
That was
a big
later.
hit for
That
you.
was '92. Yeah, that was big. But I didn't. When I released Horsepower, I released it under my own name, and that did make a difference because I started getting approached as me instead of all these different pseudonyms, which nobody knew was the same guy.
Right.
So in that sense, definitely. And it was a pretty big tune, I guess.
Yeah, help me. Was it Ejection Highway or Election Highway?
Electronic Highway.
Electronic Highway. That was your second album,
Right?
right?
Yeah, kind of, yeah. Because I wasn't really trying to make albums, and we were making tracks. And
Right. I think the first and the second one differed a little.
quite a lot, because the first one, The Force Sign, was really more of a compilation of tracks that I still had. And Electronic Highway, I did kind of think I'll theme this. I was showing my softer and more ambient side, whatever that is. And I made all that in my bed. I actually didn't make that in the studio. That was all made in my bedroom, so it's got that kind of bedroom feeling. It was late at night and very melodic, terribly mixed because I only had this tiny little mixer, but we didn't really care about that then as long as it was good tunes.
I remember Groove magazine. It was a very well-known German underground techno magazine. You were in that. I know they interviewed you. Can it be? I'm trying to get flashbacks. You had long hair. Was that right?
I did.
Blonde hair, right?
Not blonde, but
no?
long.
Long,
Yeah.
kind of brownish, right?
Yeah, well, not gray, but yeah, pretty dark brown and very much too long.
What were you? What are you most proud of about analog theater?
Well, the thing was, I got really excited about what was happening in the UK with all the breakbeats, and Prodigy was starting to get bigger, and just the stuff. I was really into the jungle and stuff, but I was pretty much a techno artist signed to a techno label. I was making some breakbeat stuff, but it wasn't really getting any attention from the record label at that time, so it wasn't getting released. And then when I moved away from RNS in '95 and I moved to the UK, they were open to that. So I made a pretty much a breakbeat record, and I was kind of happy that I sort of, for the first time, diverged and sort of left my classical sound. So I pretty much everything except the Prophet.
The Prophet.
Because that was just a big bang in tech. I actually made that with it because I felt a bit guilty to any possible fans that might be there, that I sort of left them, with all these breakbeat tunes. I sort of forgot about them. So I thought, I'll do one big banging tune, and I made it in like half a day, and it became this big thing. But it's the one I'm the least proud of on the album, because everything else was really like what I wanted to be doing.
Would you say that's one of the tracks you're most remembered about? When people look back in the 90s?
Probably, or at least for a long time I was. And now I see the new generation is digging further back. They're looking at the beginning of the 90s, and I'm getting much more requests to play like things like Camargue and stuff like that, and Horsepower again, as opposed to the Prophet. We've kind of been there and done that.
But what about, not every artist can say they've had a #1 Billboard dance song, and you had it with Sugar is Sweeter. That's a big feat.
That was a pretty big deal. Yeah, I didn't see
#1
that.
on the Billboard dance charts. That's big time.
That was pretty big time, especially because I considered myself an underground artist. I was doing techno. We weren't getting any attention.
Under what project was that?
It was just that was Analog Theater. That was on
Oh,
I was
okay.
as
Oh,
CJ
okay.
Bolland on the Analog Theater album.
Okay.
That was the first
When
single.
was that?
of the
Like
album.
95 or?
That would have been 95, yeah.
Okay.
And that was released as the first single. And then, and this is the thing, it was remixed by Armand and Helden.
Mm-hmm.
And both versions got airplay. So I can never really say for sure which one really made it the bigger hit. I know in Belgium the original breakbeat version was way bigger, but I think in the States probably Armand had a lot to do with the Billboard charting. Good.
What happened? What happened to those big stars, Joey Beltram and Armand van Helden? Are they still doing music?
I'm pretty sure Joey is. I bumped into him not so long ago, last year. We played at a festival together, and he never really stopped. I don't know what Armand's doing. I never really met Armand before.
Okay.
Just spoke on the phone, but I never met him.
He was from New York, I think.
Yeah, he is. Yeah. I'm pretty sure he's still active. Maybe he's got pseudonyms going on. I don't know. He's probably doing some productions behind the scenes. I think he pretty much. I think he set his mark. I think he pretty much did everything he wanted to do. He had like 20 #1 hits.
Something like that. He was big in the middle 90s.
Yeah.
Belgium, Holland, Germany. I mean, was there a big rival in the 90s? Because I mean, you had artists coming from
It wasn't
great artists.
Yeah, for sure. I didn't. At least I didn't feel any of that as rivalry. Everybody in Germany was playing heaps in Belgium and in Holland, and vice versa. I played in Germany loads of times in the 90s. Got to know all the guys that are here now, for instance, tonight, and we all became good friends. Or lots of us did it anyway. So I don't really think it was rivalry. It was also really fun to share remixes for each other and stuff like that. Pretty much the same stuff that happens now, but back then there weren't so many producers, so we kind of formed a bit of a bond there.
I think in 2000 you had another label, Mole.
Yeah, I
Mole.
started, yeah.
How was everything changing in that time? I mean, in the millennium, going up to now. I mean,
Well,
for you now.
Well, for a start, towards the end of the 90s and the beginning of the new millennium, software was getting developed and was becoming more popular because it was becoming more usable and more reliable and had better sounds. And that really changed the whole sound in itself and the way people approached producing techno, because before we were just banging on machines and letting the sequences run and recording 45 minutes of it and then physically with a pair of scissors cutting the tapes to edit it into a 5-minute dance track. Whereas suddenly with the computers you could do all that with tools there. You could draw lines that would open and close the filter. You didn't have to do it live. So it created a good control over the music you were making. But for a while, I'm not saying it's still going on like that, but for a while there it sort of lost that groovy feeling of the way you would just randomly make things happen. It was more conceived, more produced. And I got bored with that quite quickly, so I kind of took a sidestep from the techno scene in the early noughties and started doing productions for rock bands and stuff, and formed a band, actually a pop band, believe it or not, with a Belgian rock star. Me and him together formed this electronic pop.
Your last album was 2009. Can that be?
As CJ Bolland, but I've released albums under a different name, mainly one called Magnus, which is me with this guy in Belgium, and it's more of a pop electro thing.
Right, new release, Magnus. How much fun was it thinking of names? 500 euro cocktail.
Oh, they just happen, because if I really think of them, I get nervous. I don't have fun thinking of names, but they just sort of. I see something or see somebody say something. Actually, that was a friend of mine, and we were in this really dodgy cocktail bar somewhere, and he ordered this thing, and he said, what's this 500 euro fucking cocktail? And it tasted like shit. I said, I like that. I'm gonna use that somewhere, and it ended up becoming the album. So they're just things I pull out of the air. It's not something I spend time on, really.
What is something you still would like to achieve as an artist now, looking ahead?
Firstly, I want to have fun in the studio. I finished with all the side projects that I've been doing for side projects for the last 15 years. For instance, Magnus, we officially announced that it's the last release. We're going to go on tour again in 2018, but we're not making any more music after that. I'm not doing any more productions for third parties for other bands. I just built a new studio, and I just want to have fun again, like it was 25 years ago, sitting in the studio on my own again also, which I haven't done for a long time. So that's not really something to achieve, that's just something that I decided I want to do and is going to happen. What I do see in the future, or what I would like to be involved in, is a bit of, I like working with images. Not in the sense of making images, but I like putting music to images. So I've been contacting some people that I know that work on movie scores in Hollywood and stuff like that, seeing if I can sort of find a little back entrance into Hollywood somehow and start doing some stuff for movies. I did some over the years, smaller movies, or but that's something I can see myself doing. I'm also not 19 years old anymore. I don't want to be 60 and standing in front of a 17-year-old audience going, what's my granddad doing behind the decks? So I'm looking for other ways to develop, and that's one of them.
2 more questions. What do you miss most from the 90s?
So,
When you look back, I mean, it was kind of,
firstly, going to the record store.
Yeah.
That was just the best day of the week. It was the Thursday was pretty the main one. Other days there could be some record store. Thursday was the whole day with at least 5 shops that we did every Thursday, and then sometimes we went a bit further and did a couple extra ones. And every one you went into, there was the pile already the preset pile for you. Oh, this is CJ's stack. Check all those. And it was the beer was standing there ready and cold, and it was just everybody was there. That was fucking fun.
And it was exciting because new great music was.
Yeah, of course. And just the way of listening to it and just hanging out with the guys. The record stores had bars, and then he would be playing his new tunes. Oh, what's that one? Oh, I want to check. Give me a copy of that one as well. Now you sit at your laptop at home, going through tracks, listening to 3 seconds of each one on Beatport. That's not the same vibe. So I miss that a lot. And I also miss the naivety and of being in the studio when I was young and not knowing technically what these machines were gonna do, and really just plugging shit in and then just seeing what happened.
Right.
I know too much now for that to happen, and that's something you can never get back unless we invent something new after electricity, and I have to learn it all from scratch again. So those are the 2 main ones, really.
One of the pioneers of the 90s, I kind of been asking this question as the last question for Frankie and for Oliver Leap, because they obviously saw this guy, was Mark Spoon, who passed away in 2006. But he was one of the last real character DJ producers. What's your story that you have with him, or what do you remember from him? Because you probably saw him before.
Yeah, well, yes, we met a few times, and we hung out a couple of times. I'm thinking probably either Frankie or Oliver will have already said this, but the main moment is the obvious one for me was at May Day 2 in Cologne, and like 25, 30,000 people in this big ice rink.
Okay.
He grabbed the microphone. I can't remember exactly who was DJing, and he grabbed the microphone and he started singing. But he had this huge voice, especially in this arena, through an amplifier, and the place just went insane. And I don't know where it came from. Nobody expected it. Everybody already played their sets. I already finished. I think they already performed before that. But he just randomly at 5 or 6 in the morning grabbed this microphone, and the crowd went bananas. And he just kept going. And it was amazing. Most amazing thing I saw. Yeah, big, very big.
All right, CJ, thanks a lot for recounting a little bit about your illustrious career, and all the best.
You're welcome, and thank you.